Now on to GP Plouay, which was the other World Tour race on today, which had a pretty good start list, although it reminded me of Trofeo Alfredo Binder a little bit in that it didn't have, I think Vos was at Binder, but we had Longa Borghini as probably the 5-star favourite, as well as having teammate Elizabeth Diagnan, but DSM had good depth. They got Lebu, Lippert, Mackay, and Rivera. Rivera, I think, on this sort of finish, you do not want to go to the finish with her. She's very, very fast. I think she might have even won this before, or second in 2019. So it's a similar finish to the men's race as well. How did the break form, Benji, and who was controlling it? And did DSM do a better job today than they have in, say, Norway or other races recently?
Well, the break formed by attacking from the peloton, and that's one answer responded to. And it was including Amal Yusik and also Jade Will. I hope that's how you pronounce it. It's a French rider, so I'm trying it out here. Hopefully that's it. If it's not, just tell me and I'll try and do it better next time. But those riders had a pretty large gap for quite a bit. 2 minutes, 30. Grew quite a bit because the peloton just didn't care about chasing too early on until we had an attack with 45k to go by Julie van der Velde of Jumbo-Visma. And she basically created a chasing group with Rufwinder, Pirone, Mackay, Floortje, Bujak, Shackley, Smith, Muzic, Shabby, and Van der Velde, obviously, because she made the attack. And, that group stayed away for a bit. But despite it looking like the peloton was easing up a bit, they ended up being relatively close to the group, and just a few attacks by New Zealand riders and so forth in the group behind. I don't know which rider it was. I just know that she wasn't from New Zealand. But the gap just ended up closing once again, and we saw at the back kind of something surprising, and that was that Van der Breggen was dropping in a bit of a split in the group, and it didn't seem like she was able to close it down, and it looked like she just hadn't come back that well from her resting pause after the Olympics in the same way that Pogacar did yesterday, it seemed. And she was being dropped. Now, she returned a bit later, but wasn't very useful for the rest of the race, so you might as well just count her out from this point onwards. In the breakaway, Jade Will is being dropped by Amal Yusik, and that's basically the story for the breakaway as well for a bit. And then the action started happening. 24k to go. Attack, Elisa Longo Borghini. And that kicks things off like crazy because we've got DSM in a bit of a trouble situation there because Lippert responds to it, 10 meters behind Elisa Longo Borghini. And Rivero responds to it as well, 10 meters behind Lippert because everybody's falling apart in the peloton. And then is the question to you. You're the DS of DSM, and you've got Lippert 10 meters ahead of Rivera. What are you doing? Are you letting Lippert wait, or are you trying to have Lippert catch up with ELB?
It's tough because Longa Borghini can go so long, but again, she's gone early. Like Trofeo Alfredo Binder, that's a hillier parcours than here where she had a big advantage on the group behind. We saw Gen Favelhem, she jumped too early and still almost won, but if she jumped later, she would have won. This is early again. I think with Lippert's form, I don't have much confidence that if she catches Longa Borghini on her own, she can still, I think Longa Borghini will re-attack her. And obviously maybe she'll sit on with Rivera. I think Rivera is the best shot of winning. She's super fast and, as I said, done well here before. I don't know, Benji. It's like I don't think it makes much sense for – if Lippert wants to close, that's fine, but Rivera needs to go back and sit in the group and just hope the group catches. There's no point her also burning herself, right?
Yeah, that's true. And it felt like they both made that decision because it seemed like either the group was heating up a bit behind, but – they both just fell back to the group behind. Then it seemed like their tempo was just going down a bit. So I guess they made the decision to just wait it out. They had Floortje Mackay, I think, not in that group that was chasing them, but the group just behind that. So perhaps if Mackay was able to come back to that group, they were able to fall back to that group. They were able to chase a bit more in a format of 3 against ELB, who was riding solo at the front. But after that happened, it was Mavi Garcia who lit it up on one of the false flat sections while Rivero and Lippert were falling through the group a bit. And it seemed like Mavi Garcia was bridging that relatively easily, and she actually hit up with ELB just a few minutes later than that, and they were both able to catch Amal Yusik, so now 3 rides at the front of the race, and one of them being one that was in the initial breakaway, so pretty crazy ride so far, but a gap of 20 seconds, a group that is getting larger behind, and it seemed like the next hill was pretty far away. So I guess that some organization would likely end up catching them again. Or did you believe in the 3 women group getting away?
No, they always seem to get caught. It happened with Swift yesterday. Like Swift did a really good job. He bridged, and I'm like, he might even catch the 3 up front, and then he still gets caught by the group behind. I think, I didn't really have much faith in them going clear. To be honest, I thought Longo Borghini was winning like the minute. Like if I'm being frank with Alfreda Binder, same feeling as that race. I was like, she's gone. They're not bringing her back, and that's pretty much all that was left to say about this race. She wins. It would have been more than 12 she wins by 12 seconds, but it's a long post up, and she certainly wasn't sprinting too much at the end. So she wins the stage ahead of Gladys Verhulst for Team Arkea, who was, I don't think she thought she'd won. I think she was like just really stoked with her second result. And I think that she's 24 years old. She's going to drop Lacole next year. Shout out Lacole. So that's a good result for her. Ahead of then Kristen Faulkner, who's still in good form. She won that breakaway the other day in Norway. Sofia Bertizzolo, Evita Muzic, who's a good rider on FDJ, then Eugenia Bouillac. Dignan, the teammate of Longo Borghini, was celebrating over the line. Rivera 8th, Mullman 9th, and Anna Henderson strong. Usually she's been a domestique in the classics for Jumbo-Visma, 10th. I think the question, and this race, by the way, is called GP de Plouay Lorient Agglomération Trophée Ceratizit, one of the longest names.
Ceratizit once again. So they're sponsoring so much these days. The team, they've got Ceratizit Challenge in the Vuelta, and now this race as well. So, crap, that's we've got a busy calendar.
Yep. The last 3 days of the Vuelta, I think the women's Ceratizit La Vuelta is on. So we'll have daily coverage of that here, as well as I'll have highlight videos on my main channel. But the targets, Benji, Italy's team for World Champs, I spoke about it for Benelux Tour, but they've got, Cavalli's Italian, right?
Yes.
Cavalli, Elisa Longo Borghini, who's that?
Bertizzolo, perhaps?
Bertizzolo.
Balsamo, I don't know. I think after Brabant Sapel, she's going to Trek apparently since today.
Bastianelli as well might be in the team. It's a pretty good team, and I think they're going to send Elisa Longo Borghini long. I'm looking forward to this Longo Borghini team.
Sorry.
I walked into that one. Who else would you pick out of this race as someone to keep your eye on for the rest of the season, Benji? Is it a Neve Fisher Black? Do you think SD Works are making sure for the rest of the year they are giving opportunities to other riders other than AVEB and Vollering? Because that's what it looks like to me the last few races SD Works have been in.
Yeah, that's true. We do know that Van der Breggen didn't seem like she was on top form today, but I feel like in general, I'm just trying to start looking at riders who might do well in a Roubaix, because we've got that coming up in, I don't know, a month and a half, roughly 2 months, or a month and a half, actually, a month. So that's cool stuff that's coming up, and that's why I'm looking at candidates for that. And one of the riders in general in this race that once again popped up was Anna Henderson, been performing really well. I don't really know how good she will do on a Roubaix parkour, though, so not really sure there. But yeah, I feel like Shabby's always surprising left and right a bit. She's always in moves, and
she's good.
I tend to enjoy that quite a bit, to see that stuff. And people that might be doing well in the next couple of weeks. Well, we don't have too many races left in the season, so it's a bit looking at what races we have left. But based on this race alone, Lippert seems to be in great form, but she attacked like 7 to 8 times in the span of 5 to 10 kilometers, and she was just not able to make it happen in the end. And that's been unfortunate for her here, but Longo Borghini was the strongest. Dignan just didn't seem like she had the response. Do you think that a Cor, for example, could try something from far out on a Roubaix parkour, or is that asking a bit too much? Is that,
to be honest, for Paris-Roubaix, I like Elise Shabby. She's looked good as a domestique. Hasn't really had that many opportunities for herself this year. She did in the classics before. I was going to say, well, I like Kristen Faulkner for sure. Like, she won stage at Ladies Tour of Norway. She's coming into good form. I know what her contract situation is next year. And I was going to say, but she's never ridden Paris-Roubaix. The cobbles before. How will she go? Well, this is the inaugural edition, so that kind of is on everybody. I really like the engine she showed in that break at Tour of Norway. Go and watch that. Her engine there was outstanding, and third here again. like it shows she has a little bit of punch as well. So I think her shape is very, very good. Corin Rivera as well, another American. She had, I'm not sure what the exact reason was, whether it was struggling to get over from America or back to Europe or whatever, but she didn't do a lot of the races for some reason that she's usually good at, like Tour of Flanders, which she's won before at the start of the year. Bad start to the year, but she's coming into good shape here. I'm going to give her a couple of moral victories at the Tour of Norway, where she came second twice. That wasn't on her. She won the bunch sprint behind. They just didn't manage to break particularly well. So, yeah, she's a small rider. I'm not sure how she'll go on the cobbles because I don't know, because I've never seen it before. But yeah, I think she is someone you do not want to go into the velodrome with. But that's all on the GP de Plouay race that was today. I think a bit disappointing that it's on the Monday when the men's is on the Sunday. I think having it on the weekend, having it on the Monday, yeah, is a shame. But hopefully they can maybe change it. We'll have the women's La Vuelta stage race coming up soon, which has a good start list as well. So a packed schedule of women's racing at the back end of the year in the lead into the World Championships, where I'm not sure it's going to be all the Dutch women's teams' way, the way some other teams are looking good, like America, as I said. But that's all from us today. Give us a like down below if you're watching on YouTube or on podcast players. Give us a review on your podcast player of choice. If it's Apple, make sure to give us a rating as well. And we'll see you with the Vuelta Stage 16 coverage tomorrow. Ciao.